I'm going to ask you all to stand with me as we praise the Lord. I'm chasing after you no matter what I have to do, because I need you more and more. The only person we're chasing after is the Lord, but you have to go with me. Look at me.
No matter what I have to do, 'cause I need you more and more. I'm chasing after you. No matter what I have to do, 'cause I need you more and more. More and more. More and more. No matter what I have to do, 'cause I need you more and more. I'm chasing after you. No matter what I have to do, 'cause I need you more and more. More and more.
my love. If it wasn't for your grace,
I don't know where I'd be without
shout to the Lord, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Our God is awesome. My Jesus, my Savior. Lord, there is none like you. All of my days, I want to praise the wonder of your mighty love. There is no one like you, God. You deserve all the praise and all the glory. We magnify your name. We lift up your holy name, for you deserve all the praise. There is no one like you, my Jesus. My God is awesome. He can move mountains.
Keep me in the valley, hide me from the rain. My God is awesome, heals me when I'm broken. He strength where I've been weakened, forever He will reign.
My God is awesome.
My God
strength where I've been weak, and forever you will reign. Oh, God is awesome. If you believe the Lord is awesome, lift up your hands before the Lord in the presence of the Lord for the great things that He has done. There is no one like the Lord. My God is awesome. He can move mountains, the mountains that are before you, the things that you see that you cannot move, the things that are before you that you cannot do anything about. But the Lord can do something about them, for He is awesome. He is the great God. There is the mountain too big for the Lord. There is the problem too big for the Lord. He can solve all the problems. He can heal all the diseases. He can protect our lives. He can guide our lives. He is the Lord of Lords. He is the great I am. Our God is an awesome God. And He reigns forever. He reigns forever. He reigns forever. There is no one like our God. There is no one like Jehovah. With power, He reigns with power. There is no one like Jehovah. There is no one like El Shaddai. There is no one like our God. The Shekinah, the presence of the Lord is here. We believe in the presence of the Lord is here. There is nothing impossible with God. If you have a problem this morning, just lift up your hands and give Him praise. Give Him praise. Don't think about your problem. Don't think about the circumstances. Just give Him praise. For He deserves our
In 1 Samuel chapter 21, verses 10 through 15, we find these words. And I'll read for you, please follow along. That day, David fled from Saul and went to Achish, king of Gath. But the servants of Achish said to him, "Isn't this David, the king of the land? Isn't he the one they sing about in their dances? Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." David took these words to heart and was very much afraid of Achish, king of Gath. So he pretended to be insane in their presence, and while he was in their hands, he acted like a madman, making marks on the doors of the gate and letting saliva run down his beard. Verse 14. Achish said to his servants, "Look at the man. He is insane. Why bring him to me? Am I so short of madmen that you have to bring this fellow here to carry on like this in front of me? Must this man come into my house?" You may be seated. Again, let me welcome each and every one of you. This is a passage that we started using a couple of Sundays ago, but we had to take a break for Sunday school celebration. Just briefly, I'm not going to bore you with all the details that we went through the last time, but just reminders for you. Remember that from chapter 16 up to 21, really, we saw that, we read that Saul was, felt warmly towards David. He became jealous, and he was possessed by an evil spirit. And from there, we also saw that Saul made numerous attempts on David's life, so that he wanted to get rid of him, so much so that he asked him to marry his daughter, knowing that he would have to prove himself worthy of having such a lady. So thinking that he would die along the way. But to make a long story short, we noticed that he had tons of support system ranging from Michael to Jonathan and from Samuel. But what God did, God proceeded to remove all the support systems that he once had. So when we reach chapter 21, we also notice that David became a political refugee, not just a political refugee, but we can say that he was a man without a country, and that's where we come to this new chapter. But what is that we highlighted during the first sermon? The first sermon we noticed, we pointed out a couple of things to you. The first one we pointed out, we see that David's support system is developed. So he had to develop a support system. What were they and who were they? A couple of things for you. When you go back, you see from 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 13, we notice that David depended upon his position. And B, we also notice that he depended upon his popularity. And thirdly, which is C, that we notice that he depended upon the support of the people, particularly his partner, Michael, and of course, Jonathan, and of course, the prophet Samuel. So, of course, he also depended upon his pride, and David took pride in the life that he had lived. He knew that how to carry himself before me. And of course, what we also pointed out to you, once David felt so comfortable, God proceeded to remove the support system that he once had in place. So, for instance, that the dismantling process begin that when David lost his position, of course, and secondly, he lost his popularity, and thirdly, he lost all his people. So what did we see? We also highlighted for you that Michael was completely removed, Jonathan was completely removed, and Samuel was completely removed. David, in fact, lost his pride, because when you are on the way to become a king, you are a man of pride, you are a man of position, you are a man who are fully secure in his position, knowing that someday he would eventually run the whole place. So he lost his pride because he became a political refugee. And becoming a political refugee, in order to save himself, he had to masquerade himself as a madman. So you go from really a man of substance, a man who you can say that he was an elitist, pretty much. So for him to go down to be a man who's like acting like a madman. So the reason for dismantling, what were they? And we noticed a couple of things during the dismantling process. Understand that David was called a man after God's own heart. So if David was called a man after God's own heart, what are the reasons? What would be the reasons for God to do such a dismantling, right? Why would he do that? Well, oftentimes what we do, we tend to get very comfortable in our position. When you feel that you are very comfortable in your position, and what God would do oftentimes when you lean so much on other people, you don't rely enough on God. So God has to find ways to let you know that I am still God. I put you here and I put you there. I can actually remove you from this particular position. So he had to understand that he needs to learn to depend on God and on God alone. So God began to dismantle his support system. So the dismantling support system, it's like our support system can develop to a place where it can take us in our lives. So sometimes God puts you in a place where it's going to take you somewhere. But one thing that I realize about God is that oftentimes when he places you somewhere, the place that he places you oftentimes could be temporary. Why? Because oftentimes we carry crutches around. Listen, I have crutches at home. I should have bought my crutches. That's when I used to play ball. I get hurt, so I had to wear crutches, right? I still have them as reminders. So, when you have your crutches, why would you walk on crutches? Right? Let's look at this. So if I'm walking and I'm fully secure within myself, right? I'm walking, right? Right? Fully secure, right? Now, if I get hurt, what do I need? I need crutches. So the crutches are used for what? Support. So what God did, David was standing, but he had a few support systems, a few crutches around, right? So what God did, God just kicked the crutches around. So he became a man without support. So he needed help. So he needed to understand that though I don't have my friends to lean on, I don't have my popularity, I don't have people around me, but I still have God in my corner. If I have God in my corner, I fear no man. So David had to learn that, well, he's going to have to remove those support system. And our support system oftentimes can prevent us from looking up for help. When you have people around you, oftentimes you feel that it's not necessary to look up above anymore. You are looking to your friends for your help. And the fact that you cannot depend on that, that's a disrespect in itself. Because God is the one who's able to do all kinds of things. So we have to see also that once they are removed, you have to understand that your support system also is temporary at best. Your support system cannot last. They are temporary at best. But to understand this, when you read 1 Samuel 21 verses 10 and 11, that's not the whole story. Now you will understand, I know you're taking notes, right? You will understand that that's one of the reasons David wrote Psalm 34. So I'm going to give you homework. Read 1 Samuel 21 verses 10 to 15, and then you read it along with Psalm 34. In Psalm 34, David learned to solely rely on the Lord. What have we seen? I think that what God did, let's look at the psalm for a moment. Look at the psalm for a moment. Psalm 34. Look at the title of the psalm. Look at the title of the psalm. Huh? What does it say? Right. Who else has another one before I tell mine? Who else? Uh-huh. You see the title of the song? What does it say? Mm-mm. There's a title in a psalm. You see, it says Psalm 34. There is a subtitle. Okay. You see, mine says this. It says, the Lord delivers his own. Okay? The Lord delivers his own. So now, in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the changes in David's life, the Lord will show himself to be truthful to his promises. What do we see? When you read Psalm 34 verses 1 through 3, you see that in the midst of the problem, the Lord, David depended on praising God. The focus of David's praise has been shifted from his higher position, from his popularity, from the people, away from his pride. David began to lean on God and God alone. How can we prove that to you? Look at Psalm 86 verse 10 first. I think it's there on the slide. This is what it says. For you are great and perform wonderful deeds. You alone are what? Who? You alone are God. So he learned to understand that I'm going to lean on God, not on the people, not on my position, not on my popularity, not on my pride, but learn to lean on God. Then he learned to depend also on the Lord's protection. Understand that David, when you read from 1 Samuel chapter 16 down to 1 Samuel 21 verse 15, all the way from these chapters, you will see that David went through a transformation, a time that he felt that he is about to die, but in the process God was testing and God was shaping him, and letting him know that no buddy, you have to learn to lean on me. So when you think that he's about to die, and the Lord changes things around so that he became mindful of the fact that I need the Lord's protection. Now, probably say, well, David? Tell me something. Do you believe that David was a man? Right? Well, I'm going somewhere with you. Because sometimes we think that because he's David, he's in the Bible, he was an almighty and powerful man. Yes, he was. But was he able to feel human pains? Right? So, if you are chasing him, was there any worry on David's part? That I'm going to die? Huh? I don't know about you. But if you're chasing me, I'm running and I'm thinking, are you going to catch me to kill me? There is a time that you reach in your life that as a human being, you feel that, is this really going to happen to me? Hello. Check with Job. A man that you all admired, he reached to a point and said, you know what? Why me, Lord? So David learned to depend on the Lord's protection instead of running to Jonathan. Jonathan was his buddy. Not this Jonathan, but the real Jonathan. No, I'm teasing. Jonathan, running to Michael, running to Samuel to find protection. And the Lord had to remove the support system for him to realize that you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna lean on me and on me alone. Why would I say that about David? And you have to learn also, there is a verse that you all need to learn. Isaiah, not this Isaiah, 54 verse 17. Look what it says. But in that coming day, right, no weapon turned against you will succeed. You will silence every voice raised up to accuse you. These benefits are enjoyed by the servants of the Lord. Their vindication will come from me. I, the Lord, have spoken. Exclamation point. Your protection does not depend on men. It depends on God. And David learned to depend on the Lord's provision. He realized that he doesn't need kindness of others or bread from the tabernacle. He has learned to lean on the open hand of his heavenly Father for the provisions of life. That's why David wrote in Psalm 37, verse 25. Let's look at it. Psalm 27, verse 25, it says this. Once I was young, and now I am old. Yet I have never seen the godly abandon or the children begging for bread. So David learned to depend upon the Lord for provisions, because while he was a man on the run, he was hungry. While he was a man on the run, he was thirsty. So he thought that his friends were going to come through for me. But the Lord said, no, I'm going to do it, David. And of course, David learned to depend on the promises of God. David has learned that the promises of men do not amount to much. He has also learned that those who learned to lean on the hand of God will see every promises fulfilled. That's why in Psalm 119, verse 89, David wrote this, "Forever, O Lord, thy word is settled in heaven." Forever the Lord, forever your eternal word, O Lord, stands firm in heaven. David learned to depend on the presence of the Lord. The other props in David's life failed just when he needed them most. See, sometimes you want to lean on a friend. When you look for the friend is nowhere to be found. Have you ever tried to call someone so urgently you really need to get in touch with that person? What are the chances of you finding that person? 0 times, right? How many of you would try to reach me, but you, I know. What you get in turn is, I'm sorry, you're calling my dad? But oftentimes I say, text me and I will answer. But when you text, oftentimes if I'm in a meeting, I cannot answer your text. But one person that you're going to call, the person will always be able to answer. That God and God alone. Because God is everywhere and every time that you call on Him. So that's one of the reasons that the book of Proverbs instructs us this, right? Proverb tells us this, Proverb 18 verse 24. If you would please. It says this, it says, there are friends who destroy each other. Hello. But a real friend sticks closer than a brother. Hello? There are friends who destroy each other, but a real friend sticks closer than a brother. The person that we need to trust and lean on at all times to be a true friend, that's Jesus and Jesus. But David learned to depend on the Lord's preservation as well, because it was the Lord that preserved them, according to Psalm 34 verse 19 to 20 to 22. What have we seen? We've seen that in the end, not a single crutch that David leaned on so heavily was able to secure him and protect him. He learned that the priceless eternal truth that God and God alone preserves His people. Look what Psalm 61 verse 2 states. From the end of the earth, I cry to you for help. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the towering rock of safety. When everything else fell, you need to learn to run to the towering rock of safety. Who's that rock? Jesus was able to protect, who's able to lead, who's able to guide. And you have to understand that the Lord is all sufficient. He's more than enough. He's God Almighty. He'll never fail you, never leave you, and never leave you down. In closing, I'm going to leave you with the words of Psalm 46 as a song for you to reflect on. To know that you can depend on God and on God alone. This is what Psalm 46 says. For God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth give way and mountain fall into the heart of the sea. Though its waters roar and foam, and the mountain quake with their surging. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, a holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her, she will not fall. God will help her at break of day. Nations are in uproar, kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice, the earth melts. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see the works of the Lord, the desolations he has brought on earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. Be still and know that I'm God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and